Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Ruffman. I am your host, John Ruffman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. It's Judgment Day. In just a few hours, Donald Trump and Joe Biden will appear on the same stage. It's not a debate, you understand. It's a joint appearance. A debate is when you have two people debating a single subject with an opening statement, a response, a rebuttal, and so forth. So this is not a debate. What are we really judging tonight? We're judging several things. First, appearance. How does Biden look? How does Trump look? Are they up to doing what they have to do? Number two, coherence. Are the responses which Trump and Biden give coherent? Do they make sense? Are they responses which not only appeal to the base, but which appeal to the broad range of Americans? Number three, what is the content of their demeanor? That is to say, will they be angry? Will they be active? Will they be passive? Will they be smiling? What will they look like? These are the three critical factors in judging what I will call tonight the joint appearance. Now, what are the implications? We all know, because you've all been steeped in the history of these kinds of appearances, that a stumble or a look can change everything. In 1960, Richard Nixon won the first debate on content, but he looked pasty and pale and uneasy, and his eyes shifted, and you could see the sweat on his brow. Even though his content, at least on the radio, was better, he was really taken down by the television appearance. And who will ever forget George Herbert Walker Bush looking at his watch? Oh my, what a mistake. And you can go down the list of all of the events during these joint appearances between candidates, which made a huge difference. Gerald Ford saying that Russia did not occupy Eastern Europe. Michael Dukakis refusing to respond appropriately, in the view of many, to the question of, now we know you're opposed to the death penalty, what if Kitty, your wife, were raped? I mean, these were tough questions, and the question was not necessarily the answer. It was the perception of how the response was given. There are other examples I could give you, but let it simply be said, in advance of what will happen tonight, that the spin doctors are already at it. First of all, I want to reject unequivocally the notion that Joe Biden is, jacked up. The idea that Joe Biden is on drugs. I mean, it's ridiculous. And yet you will hear the right-wing talking heads repeat this over and over again. It also seems to me that it depends what network you watch to determine who the winner or the loser might be. I'm sure that on Fox, they'll go after Biden and say Donald Trump did a brilliant job. On MSNBC, they'll say Biden was great and Trump horrific. And on CNN, well, they try to be a little bit more balanced, but you know they're more in favor of Biden than Trump. Will the talking heads influence how we feel? Now, one of the most interesting aspects of watching a debate, or a joint appearance as I prefer to call it, is the spin room. Because in the spin room, the candidates send their representatives to spin it as best they can to indicate they won or their opponent lost. It is a fascinating phenomenon that we now have so much emphasis on the question of who won and who lost. There is another point that needs to be made. I don't know what will happen with Supreme Court decisions today or tomorrow and maybe into next week. But I can tell you it appears clear that the Supreme Court is not going to issue a ruling on blanket immunity for Donald Trump before tonight. At least that's what the indications are from those who comment authoritatively on the court. There is a general feeling among the American people that they would rather have seen the major issues involving Donald Trump resolved before the election. It appears that that will not happen, and that is regrettable, because I think clarification for a lot of people is important. Now, let's be clear. Most Americans have made up their minds. The discussion tonight is not geared to motivate a base. The discussion tonight will be to try to reach to those who are undecided. And I understand that, because if you believe the polls, then we all know that it's going to be a close election. And remember, the most important thing of all, it is not a national election. It is a state-by-state election. It is conceivable that one candidate or the other could win the popular vote and lose the electoral vote. So there is an important twist and turn, all of which will have to be discussed and analyzed between now and November 5th. This is a foretaste of what is to come. I hope that tonight is a civilized discussion in which two individuals who want to be president of the United States are able to articulate clearly their positions. And, of course, we're going to be looking for the mistakes, because if there are mistakes, if there are fumbles, well, that's what we'll be talking about. You can be certain. I can't wait for tonight. It's one of those, I would call it the Super Bowl of American politics. And frankly, millions and millions are going to be watching. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, sharing an episode with a friend or colleague, doing all of those things so we can continue to grow. And you and I will be intrigued tonight as we watch, wait, listen, analyze what happens. Frankly, for those of us who are political junkies, I can't wait. And to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of Around the Political World with John Rothman, thanks, Gogo. We'll have a lot to talk about in the days ahead.